There's a problem with stories today. Rather, I should say there's a problem with a lack of stories today. It's becoming most prevalent in video games, especially those from big companies Ubisoft, Nintendo, Square Enix. Games, when we were younger, took risks. Players weren't just superimposed into the facade of a character, players experienced a story, a narrative. And it's part of the soul that's been missing from modern gaming and why everything feels fake. But it's not the writers or the devs' fault in this, not entirely. Not when you look at the big picture. It's corporate capitalism and anti-wokeness. Capitalism is anathema to creativity. Think about it. When you submit an original idea into something like a YouTube algorithm, the less palpable your content is to a general audience, the less of an audience you get, which sure sounds fine on paper. Some stories or genres are more niche than others, and there's a charm in esotericism. But what it looks like from the corporate side of things is a suppression of new and inventive ideas in favor of trends. Look at, for example, the most recent news we got about a new Assassin's Creed game that was cancelled. This was apparently a game that many of the people working on were excited to see realized, but the reasons Ubisoft gave for shelving the game had to do with two things. Internet backlash over Yasuke, who was a real historical figure, and the political climate of the US backsliding into segregation and Jim Crow era madness. That last part is me paraphrasing. What are they going to do? Cancel me? No right-wingers watch Tales of Atonement stuff, let's be serious. And that's fine. I don't care to cater to racists, queerphobes, and misogynists. If I thought my videos and thoughts would reach them and teach them to abandon that way of thinking, hey, maybe I'd consider it. But trolls and annoying bigots, I don't even read those comments. But so what was the subject matter of this canceled Assassin's Creed game? Well, if you hadn't heard anyone else talk about it before, let me clue you in. The story would have involved a new assassin being a former slave being made free by the abolition of slavery following the end of the American Civil War. The game was set to take place during the Reconstruction era with the rise of the KKK and you, as an assassin, fighting against them. Honestly, white robes, red crosses, the KKK are Templars already. That's not me being hyperbolic either. In a collection of documents hosted on the website for Brown University, I found an application saying, "Join the Templar Knights of the Ku Klux Klan." They even offered a subscription to a pro-white publication called Stormwatch. I couldn't find a lot of information about it though. It's not listed among the major and well-documented white supremacist publications. It could be that it was something that was circulated informally, or was a localized propaganda campaign. The application at Brown lists it being specifically from Owensboro, Kentucky. In short, here we have a strong historical precedent to connect the Templars, as Assassin's Creed has built them up, and the KKK, specifically in Kentucky. But given the precedent and the long affiliation with Templars and slavers in Assassin's Creed, it's a natural progression that we've seen coming since the very first game. That is where I start developing my problem with Ubisoft, with Assassin's Creed, and with gamers in general, because modern white male gamers don't want stories. They want themes. Hashtag not all gamers, you guys know what I mean though. The Gamergate crowd, the people creating anti-woke lists of games and different other IPs. The people who started complaining when Wolfenstein New Colossus had the protagonist BJ Blazkowicz killing Nazis, Klan members, and other bigots all throughout the story. There has been constant backlash from these types on things like the X-Men, which is historically an allegory for the civil rights movement, with Magneto and Xavier being based on Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. respectively. They've done it at Superman, the entire MCU, and anything that doesn't fit into their narrow framework of thematic escapism and power fantasy. These are the people that think every piece of media should be a mind-numbing experience, a sedative to cultural commentary, because they can't swallow the bitter pill they've been fed their whole lives. We say it all the time. These things didn't become woke. They just ignored the messaging. I can give you another example of this. Final Fantasy VII. What is it? Dieselpunk JRPG with anime themes. But it's also about Barrett, a working-class black man, Cloud, a former soldier whose trauma causes him to detach from his true identity, and Tifa, a woman who quickly evolves from, if I'm in trouble, come save me, to, no one is here to save me, I have to save myself. Tifa was already a badass in Nibelheim, okay? That's all I'm going to say about that. She took a swing at Sephiroth herself, despite being basically just a human, and Sephiroth being, like, the strongest being alive at that point. But even Sephiroth represents a fractured psyche of a being that learns he was created by a corporation to be a murder slave. The unethical human experimentation that Shinra Core used to create Sephiroth literally drove him into madness. And it doesn't stop there, because Barrett, Tifa, Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse, with the help of Cloud, make up a team of environmental activists trying to take down a corrupt business mogul who is literally destroying the planet. Talk about losing the plot. There are tons of examples I could go over, because this is a problem that has been so pervasive in our current society, it's going to take generations of deprogramming to sort out. Gaming as a whole has been poisoned by anti-woke grifters who prefer not to have their worldview challenged, who are anti-intellectual, anti-creativity, anti-meaning in anything. And it's no clearer there than in the recent cancellation of that Assassin's Creed game. That being said, I'm worried about Hexa. I had my hopes for it, but not only am I worried it just straight up won't ever exist, I'm even more worried that it will exist and be absent of any of the meaningful commentary we could pull from the 1600s fucking witch trials. This should be a game that focuses on themes of misogyny, of women's sexualization, of feminine empowerment, not just magic. But what do we actually know about Hexa is that the assassin for this game is supposed to be a woman accused of witchcraft. And whether that means there will be any magical or mystical elements to this game are speculative, and I don't honestly care about that at the moment. The mechanics could be a match 3 color game for all I care when it comes down to the message and the story behind it. This is one of those things that Assassin's Creed Shadows was missing for me. Naoi's one-minded track of vengeance doesn't feel organic to the rest of the story. It feels, honestly, like they wanted to make Yasuke the actual main character because of the difference in choices the two characters make throughout the game. Yasuke's choices seem to carry more meaning. His struggle with his past, his mother's death, his relation to the Templars, it's cerebral. Where Naoi shows a fierce and even monstrous side to her combat. Remember, Junjiro literally first drew her as a demon. Yasuke shows more measure and more, well, personhood, even while he's crashing through a door head first. Look at the number of Shinbakufu I was able to spare. Only one, Oichi. But why? Aside from, Yasuke having a thing for her, but when you confront Lady Oichi, you're left with two options, and one is for Yasuke, the other is for Naoi. If left up to Naoi, Lady Oichi dies. She is literally obsessed with killing every single member of the Shinbakufu, and while in the sense of the game where the theme is ninjas and assassins, does it really make sense for the story of Assassin's Creed Shadows? What was the point of all the Kujikiri and Naoi centering herself, dealing with her trauma, and learning from it? Why include characters like Junjiro and Yaya who constantly have to call out Naoi's bloodthirsty nature? Compare this to characters like Altair or Ezio, even Edward Kenway, and you begin to see the difference between modern Assassin's Creed and past Assassin's Creed, and the difference is this. Ubisoft is no longer concerned with telling you a story. They want to sell you a theme experience. It's like they may as well have just called Assassin's Creed Shadows the Ninja Game, or Black Flag Pirates, or, oh, over here, Odyssey is Spartans. These are thematic choices with a story wrapped around it. Shadows isn't, here is your Assassin's Creed game that deals with the intense political vacuum left by the death of Oda Nobunaga following Mitsuhide's betrayal and the Honnouji incident. It's, here's an Assassin's Creed game with ninjas. Let's look at the first Assassin's Creed game instead. Altair. He arrives on the scene and is already immediately acting like he is untouchable. Hot shit, right? His comrades are telling him, dude, you are breaking all the rules. And Altair is just, I don't care, I'm hot shit. My buddy Al-Mualim got me too. And what happens? He gets somebody killed. He gets one of his other assassins injured. He revealed himself to the enemy and led the Templars back to Masyaf. When Al-Mualim finds out, he strips Altair of all his weapons, armor, rank, title, abilities, everything. And the rest of the game shows us Altair's redemption arc. We see him stay his blade from a Templar woman who later becomes his wife. We see him show mercy to his opponents at times, even as he kills them. And by the end, and I mean the end of his life, in Assassin's Creed Revelations, we see an old Altair that has been exiled by his own blood. And when he finally does return to Masyaf and is told about all of the horrible things Abbas is doing, he calmly says, pity him. Altair isn't consumed with rage or vengeance. He left that behind long ago with the death of Robert de Sable. When confronted with King Richard, he says, no, it was not vengeance. It was justice. To his new disciples within Masyaf, he doesn't make excuses for Abbas, but he does recognize that Abbas is a man who is wounded by his pain and his trauma, someone that, yes, needs to be stopped for he's committed atrocities, but this version of Altair recognizes the bigger scale of why men like Abbas exist. Altair's story is deeply wrapped up with Ezio's story. Ezio began his life with privilege, and he had to go through losing everything. He's angry, bitter, bloodthirsty, just like Naoe. Ezio saw his father and brothers executed by the Templar Order. His mother was so traumatized she could never speak again, and his sister became his only lifeline to his past. But we see Ezio grow into a wise mentor and someone who understands the weight of the Templar versus Assassin conflict. By the end of Assassin's Creed Shadows, including the Claws of Awaji, I don't feel like Naoe gets this message. She found her mother, she recovered the regalia, which I think we can all admit are just other pieces of Eden, right? Like, we never see them, kind of like the inside of the briefcase in Pulp Fiction, but that's what they are. But I didn't get the feeling that she really learned what the weight was that Tsuyu had been forced to carry for decades. Maybe there'll be more to the story, but I doubt it. Awaji is supposed to be the only actual DLC, so the story of Shadows is likely over. And that's it. They go off into the sunset to be the Japanese chapter of the Assassin's Brotherhood, Naoe's Grandmaster, and the end. A perfect monomyth, but without the real message behind the story. I think this is where RPG-style games tend to fall flat a lot of the time. Altair, Ezio, Connor, Arno. All of these games had a dedicated character with a dedicated story to tell. I think Shadows could have done better if it were more like Syndicate. In Syndicate, some missions require either Evie or Jacob to complete them, and those all have their own story to tell. But with Shadows and other games of its type in the Assassin's Creed franchise, developers and writers have to account for every interaction being potentially either Naoe or Yasuke. They can't predict which target in the Shimbakufu you'll eliminate next, mostly, and some chances to spare or kill certain contracts are missable. Take the Twisted Tree. If you come upon the father of this organization and assassinate him first, you miss out on all of the paper trails that led you to him. And having him just out there spawned in the world makes this possible. So even having characters like this spawn only after a certain level of evidence has been uncovered in the open world could have actually helped guide players down the road of a narrative with a cohesive beginning, middle, and end. Assassin's Creed kind of lost their footing after Black Flag, I'm serious. And that's one reason why I'm honestly really upset to think that they're planning on removing the modern day segments for the Black Flag remaster, because that takes away a large chunk of the social commentary that inspired me to make this video to begin with. What's important for the modern story of Black Flag is that you're not an assassin, at least not initially. You're not a Templar either, like Haytham was in Assassin's Creed 3. In fact, you're an Abstergo employee, Templar adjacent, and you've just joined the team. During your first day of orientation, you're shown to your desk an Animus headset, and it's explained that Abstergo has been using the Animus to collect all of this data on people's past ancestors, and now they want to use that data to create a curated experience. This sort of meta commentary marks the direction that Ubisoft has taken the series since that game. There should be considered a difference between the story of Edward Kenway that we, the players, experienced, and what Abstergo shipped to the modern public as the Pirates of the Caribbean style VR game, right? It's actually said like that in-game. Your bosses are looking through everything you find about Kenway and making comments like, well, we have to take this part out, or, well, we can't sell this part of the story, etc. But it's okay to include real-life figures like Blackbeard, Calico Jack, and Mary Read. Games like Mirage didn't even have modern-day segments. And those encrypted data files I've been avoiding, those actually do contain information about the modern-day stuff and what's happening during the events of Shadows. But it's all just text-based exposition. I'm not thrilled. We should be demanding better of companies like this that tell us we also need to get used to not owning our games. If they're not going to let us perpetually keep the curated thematic experience, the least they could do is include a good temporary story. Did I enjoy Assassin's Creed Shadows? Yes, I did. The game is overhated for the wrong reasons because some armchair weeaboo historians couldn't handle the inclusion of a historically significant black guy. We've had Adewale. We've had Evangeline. We've had the commentary on colorism, slavery, and white supremacy in Assassin's Creed before. There's no reason they should have canceled a game about those themes. Honestly, when Americans need that story the most, hold up a mirror to racism. Make it stare at itself like the portrait of Dorian Gray. I want to thank every one of you once again this week for coming to these ramblings of an anxiety-ridden pyromancer.
And her dragon best friend. We're a small team just doing our best to bring our stories we've loved for decades and hope they're the kind you like too.
With a side info dump of psychology, lore, history, and social awareness.
If this is your first video, we hope you'll stay for another one. And maybe you could consider becoming a subscriber. We'd love to see you again.
Our subscribers can move mountains for a channel like this. The engagement we get just keeps growing each week. You guys are getting the word out and people are listening.
And we really can't express how grateful we are to see our passion project take off. 20 years of love and dedication are here laid bare. Help as much as you care to, but at least watch and talk with us.
Of course, we can't close out a video without giving a shout out to our patrons. Emily Masternardi,
Heinrich 28,
Pammy Poo,
JC Moreland,
Shadow Fox,
Charles Tam,
Arya Gamari,
Lundair Lumen. But also don't forget our channel members, Moose Now,
Jack McLeod,
Plebe 64 Potato,
Lundair Lumen,
7 Stars Sanctuary,
and Chained Furry, Many a Mickle Maximuckle.
See you next week.